So, you want to cook an authentic Singaporean and Malaysian laksa? You need laksa leaves. Hey folks, I'm Lynn Bloor from linsfood.com and Singaporean and Malaysian recipes.com. You'll find the article, the written article about these leaves on both sites. Just do a search for the name. The name. So now, these are laksa leaves. In Malay, in Singapore and Malaysia, we call them daun kesum. Daun is the Malay word for leaf, also the Indonesian word. In the West, this herb is known as Vietnamese mint or Vietnamese coriander. In Vietnam, it's called Rau Ram, and it has various other names depending on which part of Southeast Asia it's being used in. As far as the flavor and the aroma is concerned, it's lemony, perhaps a hint of mint, but not quite minty, but a hint of mint. It's lemony, there are spicy overnotes and citrusy as well. It is an indispensable ingredient or herb in Southeast Asia and used in so many of our countries. Where to find or how to source out Vietnamese mint? Here in the UK, they're very easy to find. Just go online. In fact, I even saw them sometime last month in one of our huge garden centers. But all you need to do is go on eBay, and there are many one-man bands, family farms, family companies selling them. The same applies to the US and Australia as well. I know that for a fact. You can find them online. And once you get them, they are very, very easy to propagate. In fact, I regularly send out stems to my students, to my friends, to family members here in the UK so that they can grow their own laksa leaves. So how to grow laksa leaves? It's very easy to propagate. All you need to do is to get hold of a fresh stem, cut it at an angle, find a longish one, cut it at an angle. I've got two stems here, so I'm just going to pull that one off. And then what you do is you just take off the lower leaves. And then all you do is get a container of water, place that in there, and within 5 to 7 days, you'll see tiny shoots growing. Now these have been in water for about 3 weeks perhaps, and you can see lots and lots and lots of shoots. So now all you need to do is to place them in a pot of compost. Start off with a small pot, and as it grows, you pot it up into a bigger one or grow it in your garden. Even here in the UK, I've successfully grown laksa leaves outdoors right throughout the winter. Last year, winter 22 to early 23 was an extremely cold one for us. There was lots and lots of ice. And as you can see from these pictures here, after the ice had gone, settled down, it sent up new green shoots. So it is a very stubborn herb. If left on the ground to its own devices, it has a creeping habit. If you grow it in a pot, be sure to snip off your ends so that you end up with a bushy plant as opposed to a tall and leggy plant. You can trail it up if you want along a fence. That's completely up to you. So how to look after your Vietnamese mint, once you've planted it, it loves water. It's also a very hungry plant, so you want to water it regularly. During hot summer days, you want to water it every day, but ensure that it's not sitting in a pot of water. If it's in a pot, if it's in the ground, you should be all right. Now, in the summer months, I also feed it twice a week because it is a very hungry plant. Just an ordinary plant food will suffice. If your leaves start turning dry and brown or yellow or even red, you know that your plant is hungry, and just up the feeding to maybe even 3 times a week until your plant is happy again. Sunlight, it loves. Your Laksa leaves want plenty of sunlight, whether outdoors or indoors. However, in my experience of growing this plant for almost 30 years here in the UK, it does so much better when it has a lot of natural light, but not necessarily a lot of direct sunlight. So my garden, this side of the garden, is almost shaded. It gets dappled sunlight. This side of the garden, where my vegetable plots are, has lots of sun. In the summer, it has sunshine from about whenever the sun comes up, about 4 right up to about 9 p.m. direct sunlight on there. Now, when I plant this outdoors, the one in the shade is so much happier than the one that gets lots and lots of direct sunlight. So go figure. Now, this plant is my indoor plant. I always keep a plant indoors in the conservatory so that, should the temperatures go really crazily low outside, and if it doesn't come back up, at least I've got my parent plant, so to speak. Laksa leaves grown indoors tend to take on a uniform green color, whereas Laksa leaves grown outdoors will have that signature almost purple shade in the middle back of the leaf. Doesn't make any difference to the flavor and its uses. So how to use Laksa leaves? As its name suggests, it is the herb to use when cooking laksa, whether that's laksa lemak, the one with coconut milk, or asam laksa, the one that's synonymous with Penang, where you have a sour, tangy broth of noodles without any coconut milk. Many Singaporeans and Malaysians will tell you that without laksa leaves, that bowl of noodles you've got there, it's not laksa. It's just a bowl of curried noodles, I'm afraid. So to cook authentic Singaporean Malaysian laksa, go find some laksa leaves or Vietnamese coriander or Vietnamese mint. Laksa leaves are also used fresh in salads. The iconic Lao salad lab uses Vietnamese mint. The North Malaysian herbed rice salad nasi ulam uses Vietnamese mint. And you can also add it to soups, to stir fries, to curries. I often add it to Thai curries instead of using lime leaves or Thai sweet basil. So it has lots and lots of uses. It imparts a lemony, spicy, almost lemongrass, almost minty flavor. It's got a multitude of aromas, and it also has a touch of tartness about it. You'll find the links to recipes that uses this herb in the description. So how to store laksa leaves? If you've got fresh laksa leaves that you've snipped off, if you happen to, say, cut down your plant because it's too big, it's growing wild, wrap it up in some paper or some eco-friendly plastic bag and place it in your vegetable box in the fridge. They last a few days, maybe 3 to 5 days. Then they'll start getting a little slimy and you want to ditch them. But the best way to store your laksa leaves is simply by freezing them. Sure, the leaves will get soft, But as far as the aroma, the flavor and so on is concerned, you're not going to lose anything. You could dry your laksa leaves by hanging them upside down, cut the stems and hang them upside down. But like any dried leaves, it will change in aroma ever so slightly, and it is not as effective once dried. So, are there any substitutes for laksa leaves or Vietnamese mint? Nope, absolutely none. Unfortunately, you can't get a little bit of mint, a little bit of lemongrass, a little bit of that, and a little bit of this to mimic or replicate the aroma of your Vietnamese coriander. So, what you want to do is to go online and source out a tiny plant. They don't cost anything at all. If you go on eBay, you should be able to find a tiny plant for about, I don't know, £5 at the most. You should be able to find it. And then just repot it and grow. And honestly, you can keep it going for years. This is a plant that keeps on giving. If you cannot get laksa leaves in any shape or form, what do you do in a recipe? Well, omit them and finish off whatever dish you're cooking with perhaps some kaffir lime leaves, which you have, if you can find them, which are maybe less obscure these days, and or finish off your dish with fresh coriander leaves or cilantro. They're not substitutes, they're alternatives. But perhaps if you're speaking to a Singaporean or Malaysian, don't call that bowl of noodles laksa if you haven't got those laksa leaves. And so, there you have it. Laksa leaves, daun kesum in Malay, Vietnamese mint or Vietnamese coriander in the West. I shall catch you guys real soon.